I just finished this one up. I actually had to add a 2x4 on that log because it was so far from touching the purling. So I just had to notch the one end and this end. And now they all touch. And I notched this log just a little bit so that this third one would touch. But what I do is I put a nail on that end and one here, and then it'll rest up against it, and I can draw my little jig around here and then cut it out with a Sawzall, and then I can move it back and forth and it doesn't fall, so I can work by myself. So after I nail this in with these long 6-inch nails, I just put one right down the center in each rafter. I got 2 more purlings to do, and then we'll be all done with the purlings. And then I'll have to add supports, angled supports on this main beam. I have to tie in a angle support from here to this log. And what that'll do is keep this top portion from here to here from like a shear. It won't go back and forth. In case there's a snow load and these aren't perfectly centered or something, I could see it all twisting and falling down. So that's a weak point. So if I tie in a board from here to here, then it won't be able to move this way or either way. So I'm overhanging the purlings 8 inches on the front and 12 inches off the back. Just 8 inches in the front for aesthetics wise. I didn't want to stick it out too far. And we already have the overhang of this entire, like whatever you want to call it, porch area, overhang, whatever, to protect the bottom of the post. I don't want these to get that wet. And back here I don't have that much overhang, so that's why I did. The support is overhangs this a foot, and then the purlings overhang that another foot, and then about 1 inch for the metal roof should protect the posts here, because they rot because of getting wet and moisture. So if they stay fairly dry, they will take a very long time to rot, and then plus I put that waste oil on there, so I don't think we'll have a problem in the next 40 years. But my purlings are only 16 feet long, 16 foot 2x4, so I'm adding another shorter 2x4 and sandwiching them together, just scabbing it on. So this one's going to end up being 17.5 feet, and that'll give me my foot in the back and 8 inches in the front. And that'll give me my 17.5 feet. And that's why I pegged those nails up there already to hold the board, and then I can slide it back and forth and work off the ladder and not take that purling off every time to cut the notches. So now I'm just going to measure until the 12 inches is to the edge of this board. And that's going to give me approximately 8 inches up front, which it looks like it did. So I'm gonna make a little line here where my nail is. In case it moves, I know where to put it back without measuring. And then I gotta look at this entire board to see how I wanna notch this. So it's already resting on the back side, so I'm gonna have to notch that. This is gonna have to drop about 1.25 inches. That side's touching, so that's gonna be notched quite a bit. Another probably 1.5 inches on this middle one. And then that space is about this space, a little bit more. So I'll notch, that's why I'm gonna notch that about 1.5 inches instead of 1.25 inches. And then the front one will only have to be notched about 1/2 inch, it looks like. So now what I do is I just start on this one right here, and once I notch it, it'll drop in there, and then I can go over and notch this one, and I know exactly where it has to be because this one's already sitting down in place and it won't move. It's been drawn coming off the peak about 1.5 inches, and then I just draw a little half moon trying to mirror the log. So that's usually what happens, is I never cut enough of the edges off. So it looks like this one for sure has to come off a bit. That's not too bad. And then if we come over here, that one's almost touching. So once we notch this one, we'll be good to go. And I think what's going to happen is I'm going to have to either notch the purling or the actual rafter. So we'll go to this one and get it done. So now we got this one done. And I just got to notch this front one, like I said, about 1/2 inch, 3/4, and then that'll touch on this middle one. But now I'm up higher on this end. So this is keeping me up like I thought. So what I think I'm gonna do is notch the actual rafter. Otherwise I'd have to notch a like 2-ply purling, which is a little bit harder. So that one's notched, this one's touching, this is touching, this is touching, but now this is up high. I probably shouldn't have notched that one as deep as I did. But to fix that, I'm gonna take a little bit off of here. I'm actually gonna cut the rafter itself. I'll just put a pencil line, and then cut a bunch of notches straight down, probably a little over 1/4 inch, 3/8, and then knock that out with the hammer and clean it up with the Sawzall. So what I want to do is put some supports from this spot up to this main beam, so that beam can't rock back and forth, because this is kind of a weak spot, right? If I brace it from this actual post to here, then it won't be able to go back and forth if I do it on both ends. I'm gonna make a little notch, so I'm gonna cut into the board here and then start here and meet up with that notch, which I'm gonna cut probably, I'd say 1 inch, 1.5 inches deep. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on this ridge beam and then my brace will fit into that groove. So it won't be able to sway back and forth. I'll just be able to pin it with a couple screws just to keep it there. But as far as back and forth, it'll push against that notch. That's the plan anyway. Well, it's down 38 and then over 38. So I'll measure between those 2 points, and then I'll find the inner measurement of the board, which is going to be about 53.5. So then at that angle, I'm going to hold my tape perpendicular to it. And the log is about 6.5 inches diameter. So just kind of going off of that same angle, and this is super rough obviously, I make a mark here. And then from here to here is about 9 inches. So the top is going to be from that 38 mark, 9 inches over. And then from those 2 marks, I can measure between and find the outside measurement of that log I'm going to put in. So the inner measurement was 53.5, and the outer measurement ends up being 66 inches. But then I have to remember that I'm going to be notching in, so I'm going to extend that, I think 1.5 inches on both ends. That 66 becomes 69, and then I have to subtract 69 from 53.5, 69 inches. So this part will be the top portion of the log, and then I have to figure out the bottom portion. So 69 minus 53.5. That's 15 inches. So I divide that by 2 and I get 7.5. So when I come back here, off the 69, 7.5. And this 7.5. Then I roughly know the angle that I'm going to cut this at. So I'm going to cut those notches probably a little bit shallow beginning, fit this in, and then work my way from there. Because I'm going to cut this first and then make the notches to fit. So it looks like I cut off, I didn't get that angle perfectly right. So I'll have to extend this one 1 inch more. I'll start the cut 1 inch more than what my line is. So that's what I ended up with. Now we'll cut one of the notches. That notch will probably stay. That ended up being 10 inches, which my measurement was 9, so I was off a little bit. But I can cut this notch and then kind of lift it up there, and then eye it up and make some pencil lines. So the smaller part of the log was 9 inches. I didn't factor the fatter part of the log because it was only a little over, well, it's about 6 feet long. So I didn't think the taper would be that much, but it is. So this side I'm going to do 9 inches. This will be the skinny side, and it'll be bigger up top. So I measured down 9 inches, and then I got to cut a 1-inch notch. And if I just look up above with the tape, I can kind of see where the 1 inch will be. This little log is damn heavy. It's got to be around 75 pounds or something. This ain't easy. Seems like a lot of times I get lucky in it the first time, but this time I haven't. So I got it done. It looks pretty good. It's not as good as I would have liked. You can see how off that notch is. It's off about an inch. I wanted those to be butted up so they're physically touching, but I mean, it'll do its job. And then it dawned on me as I'm looking at it after I was done that I could have made this super simple. I could have just made the two notches first and then measured between the inner corners of where the notches, you know, the two cuts come together, and then made my log that long. And that way, if I had to shave my log a little bit, I would just never shave the tip of the long end. That tip, I could just keep on cutting in from that tip if I needed to change the angle at all. And I mean, that would be almost foolproof. So that's what I'll do in the next one. The problem is I'm out of timber screws, so I wouldn't be able to attach it anyway right now. So maybe later today I'll make the cuts and get it to where it needs to be, and then just screw it in the next time. But I got to take a break from this now. Come back to it later. Pin these down with some timber screws. So both 45s are done now. And today it's raining, and we decided to start on the metal roof. Because what better thing to do than to put up a metal roof in the rain? So we got one side almost completely done. I got the back side to sheet, one more piece, and then I got to cut. When I'm done with the entire roof, I'm going to cut the angles on these two sheets. I'll just take a chalk line and then zip that off. And then this last piece is going to be on an angle too, because this building isn't square. Imagine that. So this piece I'll actually measure and cut on the ground and then put it up. It'll be way easier that way. And then I'm thinking that oak tree is going to have to get cut down. Well, we got one side dried in. So I was going to start on this side, but then I got to thinking, and that would have got me like a half a sheet or something. On this, it would have been very difficult. Let's say the metal stopped here, and to add a little piece on this triangle. So I started here, and I'm going to work my way that way, which is better anyway, because most of the weather comes from the west, and then the sheets overlap the top, so the wind can't get underneath the sheets. That's kind of how you're supposed to do it.
Well, we had a break in the rain. Now it's raining.
Well, yeah, this is what you have to do when you don't live here and you only get the weekends to work. Roof in the rain, I guess.
Or we could go to the pond cabin and read and take a nap. Who's to say?
Another hour, we will.
Well, we gotta get this done. All right, we finished up today.
in the rain. I got all the 45 braces in on all the corners, and the roof is completely done. The ridge too, I had to climb up the ladder and then straddle this thing and then screw it all down. So we're good to go. So now what I'm gonna do is put these poles in, probably 3, 2, 3, and then we're gonna stack the wood so the ends are facing us now. So we'll just have stacks and stacks all the way across to here, the middle. So I'm gonna put some logs across here and across the side too. Probably 3 or 4, probably 4 on the side here altogether. And then I'll probably come up with some temporary bracing with like 2x4s. Maybe I'll drill holes in them or something, and then pound nails in so they slide on the inside. If I just was to like pound a nail here and then have a 2x4 that goes all the way across with another hole on this side with a nail sticking out, I could slide them and hang them as I stack the wood, and then that'll help hold it on this side, and it'll be temporary so I can take it off, because I plan on backing the trailer into the shed on this side and unloading wood. So that'll be the next step. And we're actually going to fill this with the wood that we are going to use to build the house. So all of this is going to be white pine filled in here. And it's going to be probably 8 inches thick, because I recently went and saw a, me and my wife went and saw a cordwood home. And he did a double stack cordwood house, which means you have an outside wall and an inside wall that are completely separate. And then the interior space between those 2 walls is 8 inches, and you fill that with insulation. So there's no air infiltration going through the wall. But the reason we're doing a double stack wall is it's better for our value. So there's more insulative value to it. But that's the plan anyway, as of now, since I've seen this guy's house. It's Alan Stankovich, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And he has a daycreek.net, I believe, is his website, how he built his house and stuff. So